Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more.
The benefits of a short-term fast are usually more on the metabolic and cardiovascular side of things. And that's because your body doesn't truly enter into fasting metabolism until around a 20 to 24-hour fast. And that's the amount of time that your body takes to really run through its glycogen stores, its stored carbohydrates. And then
The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it. Dr. Chris Rhodes, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely, Lachlan. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Mate, it's been one of those ones that I've had to reschedule, unfortunately, a number of times just with the move to the US. I didn't realize how many moving parts I would experience. I thought as a bloke, I was like, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. My wife's like, no, it's not. And I was like, surely it can't be that bad.
International travel is always, famously straightforward.
Yeah. So I appreciate you bearing with me. Mate, I'm very excited to chat to you. I've been fasting, as I was saying to you offline, since 2014, and it's not something that I always discuss on the show. It's just something that I do in the background, as I've found a lot of benefit in it. And I know it is polarizing for some people because, some people are like, no, it's terrible for you. And then there's a lot of science saying it's not. And for me, I just do things that work really well for me, both mentally and physically, that I've experienced benefits. And I originally got invested in fasting because of Dr. Dom D'Agostino when he was talking about Alzheimer's and dementia and cancer, for how autophagy and all of that sort of stuff can clean up the cells. So to be able to chat to you and see what you've developed is going to be very awesome. So I've got plenty of questions for you. But to kick off, how did you get into the space of fasting and all of that?
Yeah, so my personal background, I got my BS in biochemistry from Loyola Marymount University down in LA, and then got out, and then like a lot of college kids, didn't really know what I wanted to do with that, right? I knew I wanted to be something in research, but wasn't entirely sure what I was really passionate about. So I took a 2-year immunology fellowship at Stanford University, where I just kind of started pouring through all the research that I could get my hands on, trying to find out what interested me. And eventually came across healthy aging research and longevity research, which I thought was so fascinating, because it used to be this thing that was relegated to like myth and legend, right? Like Ponce de Leon and the Fountain of Youth and all that fun stuff. But it's now this very, very active area of legitimate scientific research. And when you are in that space, eventually you come across fasting, because fasting is one of the only ways that we know of to reliably extend lifespan in model organisms. And kind of like what you were saying, Lachlan, it has these other like very profound effects on helping to like treat, prevent, or delay most major diseases. Like thousands of studies can kind of back this up, from clinical to experimental and like animal models and things like that. And that was really, really fascinating for me, because fasting can essentially, enhance lifespan. It can prevent a lot of disease from happening. It can enhance health span, but it does all of that without actually adding anything into the system, right? So it's not some superfood or some wonder drug, right? It's somehow activating this like dormant longevity bio program that we already have inside of us, but just like isn't actually actively being turned on. And when that clicked for me, I got like mad about it, honestly, because it was very much like, all right, my body knows how to be 120 years old and in perfect health, but it's just not doing it. So that was like unacceptable for me. I was like, no, I as a scientist, like I need to know like why my body is so lazy, right? And how I can like wake it up, turn on these regenerative processes, turn on this longevity bio program. So that's really what catapulted me into researching fasting and figuring out what's going on in the human body during a fast, and is there a way that we can recreate it?
Yeah, I found that really fascinating. I was listening to an episode you'd recorded recently. And for me, I struggle to get my head around how you can recreate the benefits of fasting without doing the fasting. Because to me, it's like, okay, well, almost like a steroid where people want to avoid the training but still have the same benefits of the muscle growth or muscle. So that's where I got really curious in how you've sort of gone down the science route of understanding that. And I do believe, obviously, the body can recreate things. It's designed to heal itself. It's designed, and since the primal days, we've feasted and we've had famine, right? And it's, you know, sometimes you could go 24 plus days without getting food. So your body would get in that, I guess, ketogenic state, or not ketogenic, but like, yeah.
That's
so, and then,
yeah.
fasting. And then now there's a lot of, exogenous ketones on the market to sort of do that sort of thing. So when you went down that rabbit hole of how can we recreate this in the body without necessarily having to go into the fast, and I'd love to talk about fasting in a moment as well. But when you went down that rabbit hole, what was it that really stood out to you where you were like, it's definitely possible to get our body to wake up without having to go through, I guess, the challenge of fasting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was kind of the end, like the end treat of the study. You know, when we originally designed the study and the research, where we started kind of decoding what was happening in the human body during a fast, we were really interested in just almost confirming what we had seen in previous literature from animal and experimental models, right? So you see all these great immunological effects that happen during fasting. And there had been at that point in time a few clinical studies looking at fasting and showing that there were these really powerful effects, but no one was really looking into the how and the why that this was happening. They were like, all right, yes, you can reduce inflammation, you can reduce like joint swelling, you can reduce you can actually reset the immune system within the context of autoimmune diseases. And that was shown clinically, but no one had delved into what are the molecular mechanisms behind what's actually happening here, and how is this all occurring in a way that we could potentially recreate. So we started the study looking at, all right, can we confirm that when we take people and we fast them, that things actually happen in the body? That was kind of step number one. And essentially what we did for that was we had healthy young people just like you or I come in and do a 36-hour fast. And we were really interested in a 36-hour time point because that's in the literature where you see kind of the best lifespan extension. So we had people come in, do a 36-hour fast, looked at their before and after. And essentially what we saw was that when people fasted, their plasma functionalities were really, really enhanced. So they were functionally optimized, essentially. They became more anti-inflammatory. They became more antioxidant, more cellular protective. Their metabolic markers and indications were much, much better. And then their plasma became more cardioprotective as well. So that's a big deal in the nutrition world, because when you can take already young, healthy people, do one single intervention over the course of essentially a day, and then at the end of it, make them into super people, right? Like optimize their functionality, like that's a big deal. So we wanted to find out, all right, what's the difference between one state and another that could kind of be responsible for these beneficial effects that we were seeing? So we did what's called comprehensive metabolomics, basically looking at all of the different small molecule portions of the plasma. And what we found was that there were over 300 significant differences between the baseline state and the fasting state. And when we combed through those and screened through them on our like ex vivo modeling techniques and our cellular assays, we were able to identify that, there were these bioactive components of these metabolites that, when combined together, could recreate these great cellular effects of fasting that we were seeing and these immunological effects of fasting that we were seeing. And then, just because we were super curious about the lifespan portion of it, we tested them individually, we tested them together, and found that while all of them could extend lifespan together, which is, on its own very exciting, they could synergistically extend lifespan by 96% when combined together and really help like recreate these beneficial effects of fasting just through supplementation. So basically doubling their life without actually having to fast.
Yeah, so that alone is literally just using the supplement, not fasting in itself.
Right, yeah, so, not fasting at all.
Wow. So then can you use the supplement as a tool along with fasting, or like is there any impacts of doing the fast and then, for example, adding the supplement into your diet as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, because we made the supplement in order to mimic what happens in the human body during a 36-hour fast, it can be really, really helpful for shorter term fasts. So the most popular form of fasting is typically 16-8, right? Where you have the 16-hour fasting window and then an 8-hour eating window. And people think, because, just the way that the scientific hype machine works, that a lot of these studies that show you benefits of longer term fasting, like multi-day fasts or 36-hour fasts or whatever, they usually conflate the benefits of those fasts with the shorter term fasting. But when you really look in the data, the benefits of a short-term fast are usually more on the metabolic and cardiovascular side of things. And that's because your body doesn't truly enter into fasting metabolism until around a 20 to 24-hour fast. And that's the amount of time that your body takes to really run through its glycogen stores, its stored carbohydrates. And then, after that's through, then you really go into fasting metabolism where you're entering ketosis, you're turning on a lot of these cellular regenerative pathways like autophagy. But most people, by and large, when they're doing the traditional style of 16-8 fasting, aren't actually achieving those benefits. So these molecules are not actually elevated, not actually out there doing their thing, promoting these beneficial cellular effects during a 16-hour fast. We only saw them significantly elevated during a 36-hour fast. So taking these supplements alongside a 16-8 fast can really help to maximize the benefits and give you more of these benefits that you wouldn't ordinarily get from a shorter term fast. So it's kind of, our way to, enhance a fast, hack it, make it and optimize it, while also helping to make it easier. Because we kind of got lucky to a certain degree with the molecules that we identified, because not only do they have these great cellular effects, but they also have a great clinical history of having more of these tangible effects you can feel. So when you take the supplement, you can get an appetite suppression effect, a mood elevation effect, like pain and discomfort relief element to it. So it can not only maximize the benefits of your fast, but actually make fasting itself easier. And we've heard that a lot from our customers.
That's awesome, because I always notice that glycogen depletion moment you talk about when you sort of hit the lows. Generally for me, it would be for example, if I were to fast today, have my last meal at 5, tomorrow around 3 p.m., I just hit a low mood.
Yeah.
And it lasts for about 3 to 4 hours and I'm just unmotivated. I get a bit snappy. But after that, the benefits, my brain is just like, bang. I just can't switch it off. It's so clear and I feel incredible, but I can see why a lot of people hit that wall during that moment and they sort of break fast or they get the cravings, etc. And a lot of people that I know that fast do it for weight loss purposes,
right. Yeah.
Which I think may be a common one potentially, but I'm not necessarily doing it for weight loss. I'm doing it for those benefits that you've mentioned there, like cleaning up the cell, the inflammation, and really trying to allow my body to perform as well as it can for as long as it can.
Yeah, and that's great. That's I think something that is definitely it needs to be a bit more spoken about in terms of fasting, because I think you're right. A lot of people do associate fasting with weight loss, and they're going to go out there and they're going to be like, all right, I'm going to use it just for this. I'm going to get to my goal weight, and then I'm just kind of going to stop doing it. But when you really, utilize it as a lifestyle, that's when you're going to see the true benefits of it, and really get the things like the cellular regeneration, the autophagy, the longevity, and health span promoting effects.
And so for yourself, how does fasting, and I guess even the product as well, fit into your lifestyle, especially as a scientist and someone who I'd imagine works very hard? How is it? How does it blend in with your lifestyle? How do you make it work? And then I guess to add another question to that as well afterwards, what benefits have you personally experienced as a result of, the fasting and that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started fasting around the same time that I got interested in it when I was at Stanford. And when I got interested in it, I came in at reading a paper from Walter Longo, who I consider very much like the granddaddy of fasting research.
Yeah.
He wrote like all the big review papers about it, along with Mark Mattson. They're amazing folks. I got like really, really enthusiastic about it. So I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to start doing just like alternate day fasting. That's where you see the best lifespan extension. So that's the program that I'm going to try. And I was actually, taking my blood at the time and actually assessing my own cellular functionality, seeing what was happened. And I saw the same thing that we ended up seeing in the study, which was that I could fast for, up to 60 hours and see this progressive increase in cellular functionality, in plasma functionality. I was, more resistant to stress. I was, more resistant to autoimmune stimuli, so more, immunoprotective there. And I just kind of got hooked on it from that. I was like, all right, great. I can see the data happening. I can see this actually working for me. So I just kept doing it for a while. But I eventually got to a point where you kind of reach burnout. I did alternate day fasting essentially for 2 years, pretty religiously, pretty nonstop. And my sister, Caitlin, who's also the COO of Mimeo, my co-founder, she just told me one day, we were like on vacation and I was still alternate day fasting. And she was like, okay, great. Like you're going to get all these great longevity results. Like, you can see it working in your body. That's amazing. But what is the point of living longer if you have to live less, right? And that was this big catalyst for me to kind of be like, oh yeah, maybe we've taken this a little bit far. So like that was another, big catapult for me to go into my PhD at UC Davis and really try to figure out, is there a way that we can do this without having to make that lifelong sacrifice of fasting every day? So what my program is now is actually like one meal a day. I find that that's the thing that works the best for me from like a productivity point of view, and just from a lifestyle point of view. I really like that. So I get up in the morning, make green tea, have my Mimeo with that in the morning. And that just kind of keeps me going all day long. And then at the end of the day, you get your big like food reward, right? Like that's kind of how I relax and unwind. It's like, all right, I've done all the tasks that I need to do for the day. And now I get to just like come home and relax and eat this huge meal. And that's just, that's great. It gives me everything that I want out of life, because I'm not distracted during the day. I can be really productive being a CEO, running a company, and then just really like rest, relax, and recharge. I like having my little life compartments, I guess you would call it. And before I would do that, I'm very, very much into food, very much a foodie. So my thoughts were almost always like, what's the next meal going to be? Like, ooh, should I look at the reviews for this restaurant? Should I look at, like recipes for what I'm going to make at home? It was kind of like this constant, food noise that would happen throughout the day. And fasting really kind of helped me, get through that, get over that, increase my productivity. And then Mimeo has also been really helpful for that, because there is always a certain degree of hunger that comes along with any kind of fasting. And Mimeo has been really great for suppressing that, giving me more all day energy, but then also kind of just making me happier and bubblier throughout the day. Yeah. There's like this great mood enhancement effect because of the palmitoyl ethanolamide that's in there, PEA. It actually helps to stimulate anandamide secretion from neurons, and anandamide is one of the body's like bliss molecules. So great for that. Like 10 out of 10 would recommend. I'm a little bit biased, but that's my experience with Mimeo.
Did you notice, obviously, doing traditional fasting in the beginning helped you change or even improve your relationship with food?
Oh, fasting definitely did.
Yeah.
For sure. Because I think that, I was like, I'll be the first to admit that I was definitely like a chubbier kid, right? And I think that's kind of what happens like with a lot of chubby kids, right? We get to the point in our life where it's like, I don't want to be chubby anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
I gotta like find a better relationship with food. I think my heaviest was when I was coming out of my freshman year of college, like very cliche, right? Where it's like, oh, it's the first year that I've ever been on my own without parental supervision. I'm just going to eat everything in sight. And that was like very much,
freedom.
Yeah, freedom, very much me. I was like, oh no, I was not responsible enough for freedom, but that's okay. We got it in the end. And that's kind of after in my sophomore year of college is when I got more into the health and fitness, because I was like, all right, I gotta turn this around. This has gone too far.
It's perfect. But the reason why I wanted to bring that point up, a lot of people, blokes that I work with and people that listen to the show, have done well career-wise, and they have sacrificed their health to that point. And a lot of them want to start with the training because, they watch things on Instagram or they want to get back in shape, but their diet is absolutely atrocious. They don't have the energy. Their mood's all over the place. They get injured, and they don't want to address the food. And it's very hard for people to change their relationship with food because of cravings and things like that. And I just remember for myself, when I first started fasting, I was an athlete back then, and I thought I was fit and healthy. But when I started fasting, it just unlocked this whole new level of recovery and mental clarity that I was like, I can't believe I felt healthy before. Like, this is a whole nother level. But it also helped me change my relationship with alcohol, with certain foods, because I realized how good I could feel. So I started seeking out those foods that made me feel better. And I think I look at fasting, I probably give it a lot of credit for allowing me to do that. So then obviously I also understood the challenges of fasting, of missing out on certain meals and all of that sort of stuff. So that's where your product with Mimeo, to me, I wish we had 2014 when I first started fasting, to make things a little bit more easy and could make my lifestyle a lot better back then. Because I just remember, would go to dinner with my wife and wouldn't eat certain things, or I wouldn't be eating. I'd just be, fasting for 3 days. And she's like, well, this is no fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. That was one of my big experiences during the alternate day fasting, was that it's hard to socialize, right? Like it's very much ingrained in our socialization rituals that there has to be food involved. And it's also very strange for people to be like, yeah, let's go out to dinner. And then okay, but fine, you're going to eat. It's my fasting day. I'm going to take my water and just I'm going to drink it. And while you eat your food, and I'm just going to stare at you while you eat. And I'll just carry the conversation. It's just a weird social dynamic. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I did end up switching to alternate day into the 1 meal a day fasting, because I got into a relationship and my partner was like, no, you're going to eat meals with me, at least one. We'll have together, we're going to eat together, and that's going to be how it goes. Well, like I said, it's just, it's different shows for different folks. You got to find something that really does fit in with your lifestyle, and make sure that whatever you're doing is something that you can sustain and that makes sense for you. But I do really like what you were talking about with finding that control with fasting. Because one of the things that, and that kind of optimization of oh my gosh, I've unlocked God mode, right? It's very much when I first did my first ever day of fasting, I was convinced that I was going to die. I was just so sure. The first day I did it, I was I was going to sleep, and I had a really hard time falling asleep, not because, I wasn't tired or anything, but it was just because I had this fear that I'm not going to wake up tomorrow. I know it. I've been told my entire life that you need to eat 3 meals every day. And if you don't do it, your body concaves in on itself, and you'll never be able to make it. But yeah, I woke up the next morning and I was oh my gosh, I can do anything. I'm so empowered. I'm a god now. So that was kind of the really interesting part about it for me. And then catapulting off of that, was kind of this realization that, oh, if I can go for a whole day without eating, then there's no reason to eat things that, like aren't going to be good for me. I feel like people have almost this sense of obligation towards food a little bit, where, oh, I don't want to be wasteful. I don't want to, like, if something's in front of me, like I feel like I have to eat it, or like, I'm not really all that hungry or whatever, but it's my lunch break. So like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go, like, I'm going to have a snack bar. I'm going to do whatever. And a lot of those experiences are not super duper fun for people. It reminds me of like Eat, Pray, Love, where she's like, well, what did you have for lunch today? And she's like, I don't know, a salad. And I'm like, isn't that sad? Like, shouldn't you like, be really enthusiastic about your food? And I'm like, yes, you totally should. So fasting really helped me, knowing that I didn't have to eat all the time to survive. Was like, I'm just going to eat the things that actually like I like and make me happy, and only eat them when I'm actually hungry. So kind of almost defaulting into intuitive eating.
Yeah, you explain that so well, because I think definitely I've been guilty of it, and many people are, where they just eat what's in front of them and they go, I don't feel good after I've just had that big thick shake, or I don't feel energized when I have my huge breakfast. And it's like, okay, well, have you maybe thought about asking yourself why? Like, why is this happening? And if you do want to perform at your optimal level, what foods are going to allow you to do that? Because I think people, as you said, they're just like, I have to eat X amount of meals per day, and breakfast has to look like this, or dinner has to look like that. It's like, well, if that's not working for you, change it.
Yeah.
Do something different.
I also think like there's this weird disconnect that people have between the things that they eat and the way that they're feeling. I hear countless people all the time, especially in the nutrition space, where it's like, yeah, I just don't know what it is. Like, I don't exercise. I eat like, pizza and hamburgers every day. I never have a salad, but for some reason I feel awful and I just don't get it. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's those things. I mean, it's just like a hypothesis, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. But I feel like we just have this weird disconnect between thinking that the way that we're feeling has something to do with these things that we're putting in our body. And what's really interesting about that to me is that we often rely on things like supplements, which are, typically I'm taking, a milligram of something, or like 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams, or like, at the very most, like a gram of something per day. And I want it to have X, Y, and Z effects in my body. But when you think about food, right, you're eating pounds of that a day, but you don't think that those things are going to like go on to really like impact your health, your well-being, how you feel, like your sluggishness, your energy levels, things like that. It's like the biggest component of day-to-day health and wellness that you have. And yet I feel like we don't think about that all the time, or we have that disconnect where it just doesn't quite click.
Yeah. So with your meal, so you're eating at the moment, you're currently eating one meal a day. How many calories roughly? Like, for example, my ideal, I burn about 3,700 calories on a training day, for example. So would you be trying to eat that much in one meal? Or,
I mean, if I was doing that, I would probably, I would probably be trying to do like it more spread out. I would probably do something more akin to like 20 hours of fasting than like a 4-hour eating window, because I think trying to stuff in 3,700 calories is going to be hard for one meal, unless you are really like a professional eater. Right? But yeah, like typically what I do, I stick to around like 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day. Like that's kind of my sweet spot. And I go to the gym, I work out, I do primarily like, strength training, high intensity interval training, things like that. The classic, like CrossFit bro, paleo style stuff.
Yep.
I do it because just like I know that like the low impact strength training stuff, that's the thing that's really good for longevity. Your muscle mass is actually one of your biggest determinants of how long you're going to live. Like as you approach 65, there's a very, very direct correlation between like muscle mass entering 65 and actual longevity, because at that point in time, you really start getting into a lot of people dying from frailty and falls and, the muscle wasting and the sarcopenia. So for me, getting as much muscle mass as I can while also keeping things like low impact. So I'm not like overstraining my joints or actually like causing physical injury. Like that's kind of my sweet spot. And I can do that really effectively with the calories that I'm taking in and with the lifestyle that I have. So typically my like day capper is finish up with work. I go to the gym, I do the strength training workout, I go home, and then I eat my big meal, right? So like I'm fasting throughout the day where I don't really need all the energy for performance. I go out and I do the gym, and then I come home and have that big meal that's going to be stimulating like the insulin and the growth hormones and the IGF-1 and promoting those anabolic pathways to support that. And I know that there's a big problem right now with folks thinking that, you know, if you're fasting, it is for weight loss. You know, you're going to have a problem with building muscle. You're going to have a problem with muscle wasting. And I think that you really have to be conscious of when you're doing these strength training exercises, what kind of exercises you are actually doing, and then what your eating timing and pattern is to kind of support whatever your like nutrition and like body composition goals are.
So are there any like rules of thumb around that when you should train? If you were to be doing, for example, let's say the 18-6 intermittent fasting with your training windows to make sure that you aren't doing any damage there, or is it more just a longer term fasts?
Yeah. So in doing the supporting stuff, I think that there's always a way that you can utilize nutrition to kind of like help tell your body what to do and kind of tip the scales in the right direction. So when I was doing alternate day fasting, I basically did a alternate day training schedule as well. So on my fasting days, I would focus a lot on more of like the catabolic exercises. So cardio and sprinting, the high intensity interval training, because those are the things where you're basically trying to get to exhaustion, because there's physiological benefits that happen just from getting to the point of exhaustion, and it's a lot easier to get to the point of exhaustion on your fasting days, right? So, that's when you're going to maximize the amount of, catabolic effects that are going to happen that can be very beneficial, help you like lose fat mass. And then on my actual eating days, that's when I would do the strength training, because I knew that I was going to be eating a lot of food that day, really stimulating the anabolic side of the coin. So I could help build muscle and maintain muscle on those days. And I would say that for folks that are doing 16-8, you can kind of operate it in the same way, where if you want to do something like cardio or a catabolic workout, do that in the beginning of the day where you're not eating. So do it in a fasted state. And that's going to really, help kind of accelerate the glycogen depletion timeline and help you like better utilize fat and carbohydrates and to actually promote fat burning, get those catabolic side of the coin going. And then if you're going to do strength training, do that at the end of the day when you actually have the food to support the anabolic pathways.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for giving us some more on that. So do you have any exceptions as well? Like I just experienced my first Thanksgiving here and I've never seen so much food in my life. So are you really strict with that? Or for example, like a Christmas or Thanksgiving, do you eat a bit more there?
Yeah, I've definitely, because of that conversation that I had with my sister, I've definitely become a bit more lax about it. I'm not super duper regimented and religious about the fasting as I once was. So when I'm, in, typical day-to-day work mode, right, that's when I'm going to be doing the real hardcore 1 meal a day fasting and just really stick to that. But on holidays, on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, I'll definitely, give myself a break essentially and be like, all right, this is when you get to, live life like a normal person. And sometimes it's weird, like because you end up running like very smooth and clean and efficiently when you're on this fasting lifestyle. And then to go back to kind of like, oh, I'm like, I have to eat breakfast now. Like it's kind of like I get full really quickly and I'm like, I don't think I can do this, guys. Like, but I do it to the point of enjoyment and no further than that, right? I'm not like, oh my gosh, I like have to eat these meals. It's like, all right, I'm gonna have my good time with it, and then that's gonna be the end of it, and then just listen to my body and let it guide me through. And like we were talking about, I think fasting's been really helpful for just kind of resetting that tolerance of, I know what I need and I'm not going to overdo it because I think that I have to.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. And how did you go about founding your company as well, Mimeo Health? So obviously you did all the study and everything like that, but how then did the idea to have a product there and build a company around that come about?
Yeah. So that actually just came out of the science too, right? So we I'll say this till the cows come home. We just really got lucky with what we ended up actually discovering from the data set, because the molecules that we, ended up finding that like these are the best ones that outperform, other molecules, including ketone bodies. Like on our cellular assays, these molecules could outperform ketone bodies at anywhere between 100 to 10,000x lower concentrations. Like that's how bioactive they are, and the amount of great effects that they can actually produce. And then they just also happen to be molecules that were already identified as, dietary ingredients, so that we could actually use them in supplements. And they're rare. They were very hard to source because they're natural human metabolites and molecules, and a lot of people aren't super aware of them. But they had already been, acknowledged for use as dietary supplements. So we kind of found at the end of the thing that, we could actually turn this great formulation back into a dietary supplement. So what we did for that was, we found that it worked in cells. We found that it worked in these, model organisms. We wanted to make sure that it actually worked in people as well.
Yeah.
So we did another clinical study there where we took the Mimeo formulation and essentially had people come in, eat a standardized breakfast alongside a placebo control, or after a 1 week washout period, those same people came back, ate that same breakfast, but then just with supplementation with Mimeo. And what we found was that when they had the standardized breakfast with the placebo control, there was essentially this big loss in plasma functionality. That's like very, very typical of the postprandial response, the post-eating response. So their plasma became pro-inflammatory, it became, less antioxidant, it became less cardioprotective, their metabolic markers were all over the place, as you would expect. But when they had that same meal with Mimeo, we were able to not only prevent all of that loss of function, but then actually add a gain of function on top of that mimicked what we saw during a 36-hour fast. So instead of being pro-inflammatory, their plasma became anti-inflammatory and cellular protective, more antioxidant, more cardioprotective, balanced metabolic markers. So it was just really, really cool. So we could take these molecules, actually give them back to people, and essentially raise the level of these, fasting metabolites, even during a meal, to help prevent a lot of these negative effects of eating and activate these same beneficial fasting pathways just on demand through supplementation. And that was when we knew essentially like, all right, this is going to be a product. Like this is going to help a lot of people. This is really, really cool. Kind of like hacking into human biology, recreating fasting at a molecular level. And that's when we were working with Davis to put, patent protection around the actual discovery, around the formulation. And then Davis has a really great startup program called Venture Catalyst, where they help, professors and students take their technologies and spin them out into companies. So that was basically the first thing that we did. And the first thing that we did after actually founding the company was get into the IndieBio Accelerator Program, which is the largest biotech accelerator program in the world, essentially like the Y Combinator of biotech. And then from there, it kind of just, leapt forward, right? We got a lot of exposure. We got a lot of investor interest. We were able to raise a seed round and actually get the product made, manufactured, get the brand done, get all of the key supply chain components in place. And then we've been selling it since June.
Congratulations. How does that make you feel? Like if you look back on the journey that you've had to now have created something that's literally changing people's lives?
Yeah, it's very, very humbling. I'm not going to lie, because it's a very rarefied experience, right? As a scientist, so many of us do not actually get to see the results of our research actually, be turned into a product, number one, but then be turned into a consumer product that you're then the CEO of, where you get to directly interact with all the people that are taking it, telling you what their experience is with it, and get to see that it has this like tangible impact in their life and is actually making them, feel better, making fasting easier for them, like helping to relieve pain, helping to just live better lives. It's really humbling to be able to get to see all of that. And it's something that, like I said, so many scientists never get to experience. So I feel very, very lucky.
It's incredible. And where does the science take you next? Because obviously, saying from the scientific standpoint, it's always about funding to be able to fund that next bit of research. So people potentially have to go to, once again, what the trends are, etc. So like ketones and ketosis and then fasting. There's so many different areas where the funding goes. So now that obviously you've probably got yourself in a position with the success of your product and the science behind it, what are you curious about next, I guess, is in that direction?
Yeah. So we have a couple different things that we're really interested in. So number one is the fasting data set itself is really interesting to us. So, from that list of 300, we narrowed it down based on there being some kind of literature results of the molecules themselves having any kind of bioactive ability already. So we narrowed that list of 300 down to, probably around 24 that we actually screened through on our cellular assays to be able to find the final Mimeo formulation. But that leaves, 275 of these, interesting molecules that haven't really been very well researched or categorized yet, but could have these really, big impacts on cellular health and longevity, work within this larger, bio program of fasting. So we really want to kind of use that as our discovery platform to continue to research these new, clinically derived longevity molecules that have this direct impact on human health because they're human molecules that are already inside of our body. We know that they're going to do something there. They were evolutionarily designed to work within a human body, perform some specific function, and then work with these other molecules to then create this kind of, complementary synergistic effect. So we're really interested in continuing to do discovery on that data set and find out what new molecules can we identify, add into new formulations, and then make new products that way. And then further down the road, we're really interested in, in the same vein that we did with fasting, you can also do this with other interesting regenerative states in the body. So you could do this with exercise, you could do this with meditation, you could do this with, sleep, cold exposure therapy, things like that, right? And identify these interesting molecules that do these fun things within human biology. So really pumping out more biomimetic products. And that's really what Mimeo is all about. We are the biomimetic human health company, really looking to just understand the mysteries of human biology so that we can, activate it on demand.
Dude, you got such a fun, well, once again, you've built such a fun life and I guess career for yourself to be able to study that sort of stuff. It's so fascinating. As you're talking about the next steps for me, I'm like, I cannot wait for you to hit those milestones so we can continue learning and learn how to optimize our body in a way that allows us still to live our life. Because obviously, as science is just getting into a lot of those areas, there is a lot of restrictive protocols there that take away from some fun elements of your life, which is why obviously, I guess the most mass populations of people aren't doing it because they aren't prepared to, I guess that external, not external gratification. What's the word I'm looking for? Prolonged gratification.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. There's always like a certain amount of delayed gratification, especially when you go into like the pharma space, especially when you go into the supplements. Like everything in science is always like one day it'll be cool. Like one day we'll find something fun. But it's really important, right? And I think that one of the reasons why we took Mimeo into more of the supplement space and less in like the pharma route for stuff is because, these are all natural human molecules, right? So they're not super attractive from a pharma perspective in that way, but we wanted to make sure, because you can't patent them. Like that's why they're not attractive from a pharma perspective, obviously. Like it's just not a good business interest, which is kind of gross for me. I'm like, I would rather, like find something cool and safe, like even if I can't like necessarily patent it, and just make it accessible to people rather than trying to put it behind some like prescription wall, right? But I'm still very much, informed by and use pharma as like a guidepost of like, here's how you really do the science. You make sure that these things are effective. You make sure that they're safe, and then you give them out to people in a way that can make the most impact in their lives. So I think that the delayed gratification of scientific research is always just worth it, especially when you're trying to build a brand, number one, but then number two, if you're actually trying to like provide people with a good product that is going to actually be able to have an impact in their lives. And that's really what is like the core guiding principle for Mimeo, is making sure that we are, giving people access to something that can really help them on a day-to-day basis and let them unlock their own biology.
That's awesome. So where can people find you on social media? And also if they wanted to purchase a Mimeo, where can they find all of that?
Yeah, so they can find Mimeo at mimeohealth.com, MIMIO health.com. And, you can check out our clinical studies there. You can read about our science. You can see our cool branding and design. Like, we're very happy with that, very proud of it. We just had like a website revamp, so I'm still nerding out on it a little bit. And I'm like, it's so cool. But yeah, there's like all the information that you could want is there. Then I also have my own TikTok channel that's at that nutrition doctor DR. And basically it's just me screaming about nutrition into my bathroom mirror. So that's always a fun time too. If you want to learn more about fasting, if you want to be entertained by like my day-to-day lifestyle and my, my nutrition magic recipes where I teach you how to eat more while still eating less, that's, the place for that.
A lot of people are wanting that. But Dr. Chris Rhodes, everyone, thank you so much for your time, mate. And honestly, I'm looking forward to continuing to follow your research and your journey with what you're creating.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lachlan. It's a really fun time. I think it's a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.